Charlotte Engmann is the Water and Sanitation Systems Coordinator for the Community Water and Sanitations Agency in Ghana, the CWSA. She has years of experience of facilitating WASH programs in rural Ghana and small towns. Victor Otum, Communications Officer at IRC Ghana, asked Charlotte Engmann what the WASHCost project has achieved in practical terms. First, she explains what the project set out to do.
The project seeks to look at the life cycle costs of water, hygiene and sanitation programs. It seeks to look at what costs have been incurred in the field on various projects over the years. It has selected a few regions, and out of that some districts, some communities, to go and gather data on these costs. It has also looked at the information we have in our completion reports and project documents. It has also interviewed people in the sector and gathered ideas from sector stakeholders on what these costs are likely to be. These costs also imply the way we do things, the way we carry out our projects. And it's not just the cost of the projects, it's the cost of CWSA, the districts, and all the associated costs in supporting these projects. There were a lot of costs that nobody had attempted to quantify, so these costs were being ignored. Costs, for example, of CWSA's total budget for supporting the WASH sector. Costs of the districts, their salaries, their admin budget and so on had not been borne in mind. Then operation and maintenance costs were also not fully known. Our experience was that even the data that was required was largely unavailable. It had to be assembled from scratch because nobody had bothered to gather that data. We also discovered that stakeholders had a lot of information to offer on costs, which nobody had bothered to ask them about. It meant that if, for example, we required a certain amount of money from government, because we had not put it down, we could not ask for it. And if, for example, this was needed at post-construction stage to, for example, monitor water quality, it meant that that did not get done. If we needed money to go into the field to do technical audits and we had not costed this, it meant it didn't get done. So it was not just the project implementation costs, which were largely borne and largely known, but it also meant certain things didn't get done. And it also, the fact that we didn't have data gathered together meant that each time we were doing a new project, we had to assemble information from scratch, and sometimes it was not very accurate. Some of it was surprising, but we could not quibble with it because it has been obtained from the field and we were involved in the selection of the communities. So the little data that we had, when we compared it to that data, we found that it was correct. Selecting the regions that were to be covered with gathering the data, you never really know whether you are right, whether you made the right choice. And as the initial findings started to come out, I saw that we had made the right choice because it brought us the sort of results we wanted to know. We had no reason to doubt the validity of the data. I believe it has changed things because, for example, we look more critically at districts' costs. We are trying to gather all the information we need on the costs that the districts need to support WASH projects, both during implementation and after commissioning. We look more critically at post-construction costs, especially for rural communities. We didn't have data for hand pump maintenance, but now we are trying to assemble that data. When the project publishes all its findings and everybody sees how useful it is, the NGOs will also see how useful it is to gather data. With the help of CONIWAS, the NGO group, we are trying to let them know that they must document these costs and they must make it accessible to us. So we hope that in a couple of years' time, things will be a lot better, especially when the project publishes all its findings and everybody sees how useful it is. The NGOs will also see how useful it is to gather data. I believe its biggest achievement was in how it itemized the costs separately of implementation, post-construction issues, how it divided up the costs to enable everybody to see that this is the capital cost, this is the maintenance cost, and so on, because nobody had ever divided up these costs that way before. At the beginning, we thought we would get a lot of information very quickly. And when we saw how difficult it was to get the information, the final information in a usable form, we saw that it was taking a lot of time. That was frustrating for us. I think that was the major frustration. Quantifying CWSA's costs in supporting WASH projects is one very big legacy, because it has always been difficult to get government to provide the real amount of money that we need for our operations. So I think that that is one very big legacy. And the other one is the operation and maintenance costs of WASH projects.